So I think I've probably gushed enough about my love for Ed Miliband before on this channel. But to be honest, I am very, very much convinced at this point that Ed Miliband is probably one of the best leaders the UK unfortunately never had. If only we lived in the better timeline where we could eat that goddamn bacon sandwich correctly. Because if not, we probably wouldn't be in this situation. And as David Cameron once said, hey, if you voted for, Ed Miliband, you'd get a coalition of chaos. Well, look at the chaos we got from people voting for David Cameron. truly, truly, we are living in the worst timeline. But the other thing I really, really want to sort of focus on today as well is Labour policy and what Labour would do, because I have always said that because there is a lot of sort of anger and annoyance by a lot of people sort of not liking Keir Starmer, unfortunately, not only do they not listen to what Keir Starmer has to say, but they don't listen to what Labour puts out, or even people like Ed Miliband what Ed Miliband puts out as what are Labour's ideas for when they get in power. And one of the big things that we have seen is climate issues rapiding up in the voters' priority lists. Voters want to see action on the climate. More and more, it is becoming a big vote winner. And we've seen the Conservatives, even Green Tories, be dismayed at their own party when they've, thrown out these green ideas and plans or haven't even followed through on them. So this, I think, is really important. I think it's something that we definitely should pay attention to. And of course, it's Ed Miliband leading the way on this, which he normally does. It's kudos, massive kudos to sort of Ed Miliband. He's done a really sterling job, and I don't think a lot of people give him enough credit for some of his sort of actions and stuff that he goes out and does for the Labour Party. So, as always, before we do go jumping into this, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all the people who do help and support the channel that way. And on we go. So, this comes from The Guardian today. Of course, Ed Miliband is going to be running around called COP27. Is it COP27 or COP26? I can't remember which one it is now. But he is, again, according to this, that Labour would create an anti-OPEC alliance for renewable energy. I generally think this is an absolutely fantastic idea, and it's about time that we really took on OPEC. And I think a lot of people on the left and people who are sort of really positive and want to see action about the environment is definitely something we should be thinking about doing. So let's go diving into this. So the UK under a Labour government would form an anti-OPEC alliance of countries dedicated to renewable energy to bring down energy prices and promote clean technology, the shadow climate change secretary Ed Miliband has said. A clean power alliance would enable countries to cooperate to source components more cheaply, boost the expansion of wind, solar, and other forms of low-carbon power, and potentially to share or export electricity across connected grids. Denmark, the Netherlands, Austria, Portugal, Costa Rica, and Kenya are the potential partners, and Miliband will be drumming up further support as the COP27 UN Climate Summit, which he's visiting for several days, he's currently at. And if you've seen his Twitter, he's already out there running around. But back to it. Labour is committed to 100% low carbon electricity by 2030. And that is the type of thing I love to see. Now, there's a lot of people who are very sort of, pro-climate, say, oh, that's not quick enough. But I'll tell you what, if Labour can come in, do this type of stuff and promote that as a goal, then that is a fantastic one to push for. And Ed Miliband is one of these types of people who has continuously said, we have to be bold about our promises and what we've said. And I think that is a fantastic goal to reach for. But he also had this to say. The potential Clean Power Alliance is like an anti-OPEC, said Miliband, referring to the group of oil-producing countries. He said, I say anti-OPEC because OPEC is a cartel, a group of countries that work together to keep prices high. This would be a way in which countries can join together to be the vanguard and say, we're going to deliver on clean power and it will help cut prices, not just for us, but for others. He said that the plunge in the price of renewable energy over the last decade was the biggest source of optimism we should all have. And about the climate crisis, it is now cheaper to save the planet than to destroy it, Miliband said in an interview with The Guardian. He said, this message is one we should be shouting from the rooftops because the implications of the message are profound. So the Labour leader, Keir Starmer, has vowed to lift the current ban on onshore wind farms, which again, I really hope he does, which would offer the cheapest form of renewable energy. And changes to the planning system under the David Cameron have effectively prevented any new onshore wind farms from being built in the UK since 2015. Labour would also stop granting new oil and gas lines to the North Sea, and the Conservative government is currently planning to grant more than 100 such development and exploration licenses. Miliband stopped short of pledging to revoke any of the license granted, but he pointed out that companies with the exploration licenses would need further licenses to actually develop the field, which Labour would not grant. He also wants 3 nuclear power stations, which again is good because, as we've always talked about, when you talk about sort of the transition to sort of renewable energy, nuclear is at the heart of it. It really is. So these new nuclear power stations will help to fund that transition towards a more renewable future. We can't get away from not having those nuclear solutions. And I know a lot of people are very, very timid when it comes to nuclear power stations. And I know it's predominantly the main worry about Chernobyl. But honestly, if we want a better, greener future, nuclear is the way to go. So back to it. So, in line with advice from the Committee on Climate Change, generating power from biomass, burning trees would have to be carefully looked at, he promised, to ensure that it was environmentally sustainable and economically viable. Miliband, who will attend COP as the Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change from 2008 to 2010, accused the government of behaving as a climate chameleons, he pointed out. That since hosting the very much lauded COP26, the climate summit, where negotiations were agreed to limit the global temperature rises to 1.5 above the pre-industrial levels, the government had returned very briefly to fracking, mooted a new coal mine, granted new oil and gas licenses, and given tax breaks to fossil fuels, kept the ban on onshore wind, slashed aid to the poor countries, and failed in its insulation, and then snubbed COP27 until Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, U-turned and came for a day. Alok Sharma, the cabinet minister who provided over COP26, had done an important and credible job, Miliband said. And I admire Sharma, but he's been completely undermined by a government that has been saying to people, do as we say, not as we do. And that's a big problem. And by the way, Alok Sharma has been going around giving the biggest single thumb up, shall we say, middle finger to the, shall we say, the anti-net zero conservatives. He's been going on a massive tour since he sort of lost his position in Boris Johnson's government. He obviously wasn't given a new one in Rishi Sunak's, but he's been on a massive climate tour trying to promote a ton of net zero positives. And honestly, he's been doing a fantastic job. I can't disagree with what he's been doing in that regard. So, you know, good on to him, showing the middle finger to the net zero, the anti net zero Tories. So back to it. The UK had lost its standing on the international stage. As a result, he added, the problem is the government has made promises and then broken its promises, and that isn't a good basis for trust. Sunak's unoriginal decision to snub the COP27 summit and even prevent King Charles from attending had been extraordinary and embarrassing, said Miliband. You don't need to be a climate nerd to work out that COP26 was a big deal, and we hosted COP26, and therefore COP27 was where we will be handing over the presidency. It's a big deal, he said. And if more than 90 world leaders are going, you know you should probably be there. He said Sunak just didn't get this agenda. He doesn't get that it's the future. He doesn't get that it's the future of our economy. He's at the margins. He sent a message internationally, regrettably, and even domestically, that the original decision, which is, quote, "this isn't my thing." Starmer had since shown that Labour would lead on the climate and in green jobs as a central plank of the party's vision for a future, he added, as well as targeting 100% renewables by 2030. The party would set up a national public-owned energy company, GB Energy, with a wealth fund to invest in green technology and green jobs. Again, that is fantastic. That is a good step. Because if this works, and people on the left should be wanting this to work, because as we've always said, when it comes to nationalization, people are sort of in favor of it, and then they sort of maybe shy away when it comes to different areas. But people on the left should want to make this work. This will be a good cause to say, look how fantastic GB Energy has been run as a nationally publicly owned energy company. Why can't we extend this to others? So honestly, you should be supporting this. If you want nationalization, it's right here. Labour is offering it. But anyway, back to it. It's at the center of our agenda because it's the future of jobs. It's the future of our economy, lower bills, energy security, and it's the biggest issue we face as a country and the world, Miliband said. Voices, though, within the Tory party have raised doubts over net zero, he noted. That means you're saying we want to carry on with more dirty, expensive fossil fuels for our energy system, not greener, cheaper renewable power, he said. That is not a winning position. Anti-net zero is a very defeatable position. For the vast majority of people, the climate was a significant issue, he said. What we want to know is that what can be done in a way that makes economic sense for us, particularly when people are facing a cost of living crisis, and the overwhelming answer is yes, he added. Labour's plans for a clean power by 2030 would cut bills by at least £93 billion, according to the party's analysis. Though the measures, including the energy efficiency and home insulation programs boosting renewable power, include more onshore wind farms and a windfall tax on the excess profits of oil and gas producers. Miliband said that pushing for more cleaner energy would also improve people's health and quality of life. We're a country that is racked by terrible fuel poverty and by the killer of air pollution, and a deep desire for a big economic change, he said. As Joe Biden has shown, being a leader on climate is an answer to all those things. So, yeah, I have to say that is fantastic. That right there is fantastic. I love that. I love, once again, promoting the green energy plan, the nationalized green energy company. Again, more focus, an actual plan for providing green energy that isn't just, well, we're going to just do this, but having nuclear involved, which, as we've always said in that transition, nuclear is really important to it. So this, to be honest, is fantastic. And as often a lot of people will go, oh, well, I don't know what Labour's ideas or plans are. Well, we've just said to you what Labour's ideas and plans are. Those are good. Those are very good plans going forward. And creating a greener future where we can create those greener jobs as well also is going to be fantastic. Because also today, we'll be doing a video probably tomorrow for it. Turns out the government, and particularly the past couple that we've had, have actually presided over a big decline in UK manufacturing. And this, a green energy sort of revolution and green manufacturing, can massively reverse that decline. It just needs to be invested in and created and done. And Labour have a plan. They have the policies. It can be done. It can really deliver some significant changes to a lot of areas in the north that are crying out for these massive jobs and investment in the area. So, hey, let's get them in at the next election. Hopefully, it'll be in a year's time. But hey, you never know what could happen in sort of what the reaction to the budget could be. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. And of course, down below there is the YouTube thank you button and the YouTube Pony Club you can join as well. So links down below in the doobly-doo. As always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll see you all next time.